the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased of a sisterhood, of a race. In my shoes, listen to my blues. I stand before you, resilient, stronger than power, soft as a flower. I know the hour, I am the times. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy.
Well, hello to our Facebook Live audience. I'm Gwen McKinney, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I don't know whether anyone noticed, but I've been on a bit of a sabbatical for health and healing, and here I come back, healthy, healed, and ready to roll, and excited to join you. And so tonight, our subject is expats. The expat experience, no place like home. And before we get into our conversation and bring our fabulous guest on, I just want to give you a quick public service announcement. Unerased Black Women Speak has featured this subject in our podcast, which just went live yesterday by the same topic. Take a look. You can visit us at unerased.bws.com and it's streamed there, or you can go to any of your favorite streaming sites, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And by the way, why don't you subscribe? So I am thrilled to welcome two really dynamic women. One hails from Panama City, Panama. The other, well, her world is the canvas is her world, or whatever you say. And in fact, she is literally at an airport in Montreal headed back to Paris. So let's bring on Charlotte Van Horn, who is joining us from Panama. And she is the creator and founder of Black Expats in Panama. And let's bring on Julia Brown, who is a historian, tour guide extraordinaire, and also the founder of Walking the Spirit, Paris Tours. Welcome, ladies. Okay, but before we get to them, we're going to hear a little bit about Charlotte Van Horn and her Black expats in Panama, and then you'll meet her. Take a look.
Hey everybody, it's your girl, Charlotte Van Horn with Black Expats in Panama, and I'm coming to you to invite you to an exciting new radio broadcast that will be beginning on November 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's right, we have our own radio show now on BlackSitRadio.com, and it's going to be my journey from small town USA, Glassboro, New Jersey, all the way to the amazing, fortifying, full of opportunity Panama City, Panama, baby. And we're going to allow others to share their experiences too. So for those of you who have thought about Black City, you don't want to miss this broadcast, and it's going to be every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In addition to talking about Panama and my journey, we're going to throw in some oldies for you too, in memory of my mother, the amazing Charlotte Evelyn Bailey Higginbotham. She used to love to listen to oldies on Sunday, and that is how I honor her memory to this very day. So in honor of mommy, we're going to throw in some oldies. You know, we're going to mix it up. And you know me, I'm funny because that's what I do. So don't miss it because there's so much in store for you. That's BlackSitRadio.com. on November 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you there on that Sunday and every other Sunday. Don't mix it. BlackSitRadio.com.
Hey,
Hey! Oh my goodness. I haven't seen that video in a minute. Hey!
we are so excited to have you.
I'm
And
excited to be here,
actually,
Karen.
I want you, we're going to bring Julia up in a minute, but before we do, I'm going to allow you to do a quick public service announcement to tell our audience what is Black well, first of all, we know about the radio show, and
Yes.
it's still on four o'clock.
It's at 2 p.m. Costa Rica time. So it changes. But right now, yes, it is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time
4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
on Sunday.
Do it from blacksit.com.
BlackSitRadio.com. Yes, ma'am.
Blacksitradio.com. Tune
Yes.
in, folks. Tell us a little bit about what Blacks Expats in Panama is all about.
Okay, let me see if I could do an elevator pitch right quick. Black Expats in Panama is about options. It's about people that, it was developed for people that were looking and seeking other opportunities outside of the United States. I happen to be a Black expat in Panama and created a cultural relocation tour to help folk experience Panama as far as living here. We show you areas in and around Panama City and also some of the beach areas where to live. But then we also, what's unique about our tours is that we add a cultural perspective. You can't have Black nothing without bringing on the Black cultural, perspective. So we show you the history of Afro-Panamanians, Afro-Antillians in Panama, and it is a life-changing event. 5 days. We do it every month from the 1st through the 5th, typically every month except for October and November. So
Well,
that's just a quick synopsis.
quick
I
and
could go on and on, but I won't.
we know you can go on and on, sister friend. I will say this, and this is one of the things how I stumbled on Charlotte. We met very recently and feel like we've known each other for a lifetime. Charlotte lived close to my hometown of Philadelphia, Glassboro, New Jersey. And prior to her becoming an expat, or what we call expatriates, she had really not ventured out of the United States.
Nope.
But she is among a growing, expanding number of Black folks, especially Black women, who are picking up, taking wings, and landing in other places, other countries. And for many reasons, some of it has to do with they're just sick of being here. They want a new life. Some of it is politically. They want to be closer to a place where they can be valued and appreciated. Some of it has to do with economics. And I guess we're going to have a little conversation with you, Charlotte, in a minute to talk a little bit about what made you leave. But before we do, I just want to say there's a growing number now, and we're hearing more and more about it thanks to social media and all the digital technology.
Right.
But it's not new. Black people have expatriated from the United States of America for at least 100 years. And I'd like to, first of all, bring on Julia Brown, who is she's a historian in her own right and a tour guide in her own right. And she has really dug deep into Paris. Julia was born in the UK, raised in Canada, and then moved to Paris as her home. She happened to move to Paris and is in good company with the likes of many, many expatriates. We know Langston Hughes and James Baldwin. Hi, Julia. Julia is literally at the airport, folks. She is on her way to Paris and she wanted to do the show. So when you hear the noise in the background, this is authentic. This is airport noise. And there is Julia. Well, we think that's Julia. While we're getting Julia back, April, maybe Julia can take us on a tour of Paris. We have a brief video, and Julia does walking the spirit tours, helping Black Americans and anyone who's interested to learn about Paris. April, why don't we just go to the video right now, and then we'll bring Julia back in a minute.
Coming up this hill, we're now going up Avenue de Clichy, and we are heading towards Place Clichy. But on the right-hand side, you can see straight away a place called the Casino de Paris. And this is where the 369th Harlem Regiment, who I said were honored on the Champs-Élysées, they went back to New York, reformed, and came back and played at the Casino de Paris in a room called the Perroquet Room. They played there for 6 years. And the African-American musicians here, they were considered, nobody else knew how to play jazz. And when the clubs decided that they wanted the French musicians to play jazz, the French musicians thought, well, this isn't real music. So they didn't want to play it. So this is the hot spot here, the Casino de Paris. Josephine Baker came here in 1925. She was not the first to arrive. A woman named Bricktop. Has anybody heard of Bricktop? She got here before Josephine Baker got here. She was called Bricktop because she had bright red hair, but Josephine said it was because she also had a temper of the Irish as well, which wasn't surprising because she was half Irish, half Black. But Bricktop she was used to in the state to performing in big clubs and having the great treatment. But when she came to Paris, she was booked into a place called Le Grand Duc. She looked at it and she saw how small it was. It probably had like maybe up to 12 tables. And this place was run by Eugene Boulard, the first African-American pilot. Anyway, he was running the club. And we're coming up to it. You'll find it on the right-hand corner here that says Café Brasserie Le Coq. That's where Bricktop performed first, right in the corner. She started singing here, saw how small it was, sat down and cried. Langston Hughes was working in the back there, believe it or not. He just lived up the street there. He'd come down the hill, working, washing dishes in the back there. And while he's washing dishes, he's listening to Bricktop in the front, performing. And then he starts working in his mind. He starts creating jazz poetry. So the very first jazz poetry was created in the back room here of this little place, and it was called the Grand Duc. Well, you know, Bricktop was an entrepreneur. She didn't stay there long. She crossed the street, right where it says Nicolas. We think it's right on this corner here, but we know it is across the street from where she was formerly employed. And she opened her own place, Bricktops. And it was a huge success. She had people like Scott Fitzgerald came, Hemingway, Cole Porter was there. We're on Rue Fontaine here, which was called the Black Montmartre, the heart of Black Montmartre. And on the left-hand side is where Josephine Baker, we don't know which number it was, but Josephine had her own club here called Chez Josephine. Of course, Josephine was used to the high style, and it was expected of her in her club. It was one of the most expensive in the city.
Okay. Hi, Julia. And we know it's difficult coming in and out, and audience, bear with the sound, the background sound of the airport. Julia, we are so happy to have you here to join Charlotte and me to talk about expats. Tell us a little bit about.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about Portland.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Gwen. I appreciate this. I'll talk about this all day, and I appreciate being able to share it with others who are doing the same expat work like Charlotte and others. So I'm pleased to be here. So let's talk about Bricktop. Yeah. So Bricktop was the first, really the long-term expat in Paris. She came in 1924. She performed in clubs in the United States, so she was used to. She was used to like quite a standing, as we call it, but she wanted to have her own club, and that was not going to happen in the United States. So when she came to Paris, she landed, as I said that's in the video, in a little small club, but she didn't stay there long. But she was so much more than an entertainer. She had a way about her that she had a way that opened the doors for all people from all different backgrounds. And in the area that they were in Montmartre, it was a place where all kind of foreigners from all different countries, wealthy people, came and partied. And there was no barrier. There was no rich or poor. There was no black, white, or other. She had that gift to pull people together and make them feel really welcome. So they followed her everywhere. So they followed her from one club to another. But she was more than that. Her club was a meeting place for women who were traveling alone in the 1920s. And there were women who traveled alone in the 1920s, like Aslanda Robeson. Yes, she traveled with her husband, but she also hung out with women too, Gwendolyn Bennett. So this club was a place where she nurtured women's talent. So she put them up on the stage and they performed. But she also was a place where women came together to talk, and so she was a girlfriend type. So she had that talent about her, and she went from club to club, and just got bigger and bigger and bigger, like the ultimate entrepreneur. That's what Breaktop was. But she also, hey, I changed French because
Uh-oh, Chris is freezing.
the name of Django Reinhardt.
Julia, I think
Can you
she's
hear me?
frozen. Oh, you froze a bit. That's the joys of the Montreal airport, huh?
Okay,
Well, I tell you what I want to
I
do.
don't know.
Hang in there with us, Julia. Froze or not froze, we want you to be there. Last November, Charlotte, the French government did something really extraordinary. They reinterred the remains of Josephine Baker. And usually when people talk about Paris and expat, they always talk about Josephine Baker.
Yeah.
And her remains were reinterred to the Paris Parthenon. And that is like one of the final resting places of the country's most exalted hero. And that's where Josephine Baker's remains now rest. We
Wow.
acknowledge her because she has legendary status, not only as an artist. Many people don't know she was part of the resistance against Nazi domination and
Hmm.
occupation. She was actually a spy, I believe. She was also a tremendous human rights campaigner who, when she left, a little skinny girl from East St. Louis, left the country of the United States. She left. It was during the lynching, and she understood that racism was not going to allow her to rise and shine. But
Hmm.
it's something interesting. We were just talking about it off
Hmm.
mic for the show. Josephine Baker was one of the only women to speak. Did she have a speaking role at the March on Washington? Did they allow her to speak? But we know she came back because she was a very active supporter and contributor to the civil rights movement.
I love that. I love that. I didn't really know that about her, and I'm so glad that I'm doing this because between learning more about her and learning more about Bricktop is just amazing. You love learning stuff, especially as an old person. But also, what we were saying is that it's important for us, for those of us who have left the United States, we look back and we see the mass shootings, we see the police brutality, and it's like we're still Americans. We are still connected in every way, really, to the United States. So I definitely appreciate the fact that even though she had left, she came back for the cause. And I hope that that's an encouragement for people listening to this who are expatriates, because it's like it's still our home, right? And we still have people that we love there that are fighting causes for us and others. And we definitely want to support that.
So, what do you think? This question is for both of you. I'll start with you, Charlotte, and then we'll go to Julia. And Julia has a different understanding. It's also historical as someone who's a North American who kind of understood the movement in Europe. But Charlotte, what made you pick up and leave? And why do you think many people, especially women who you're in touch with in Panama and in the Americas, are leaving? Why, Charlotte?
Well, I think what was my husband and I, we had plans. My husband is Panamanian. And so, when I first met him, he said, when I retire, I want to go back to Panama. I was like, oh, that's nice. And, like I, told you, because I was thinking to myself, I'm never leaving the United States and we probably won't be dating that long anyway. So, but I think that ultimately when it comes to me leaving, it was a culmination of George Floyd, Karen in the Park, Donald Trump, and COVID. It was just too much. It was just team doing too much. And I just can remember the day watching George COVID, and I try not to talk about it a lot because
George Floyd, George
okay,
COVID. Yeah.
yes, George Floyd. I'm sorry. And I just remember watching that and just that feeling of despair. Was I calling him George Foreman?
George
Was I calling?
COVID. But it's okay. Keep
I
talking.
called him George COVID.
It's okay. We understood what you're talking
Okay. But anyway, watching that, it was that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. It was like I have to go. I have to go because just the sadness and the distress and just like how much more can we take? It was time. So that was the deciding factor for me. I called my husband who was in Panama at the time and I said, we have to make this move. I got to get out of here.
Wow.
Mhm.
And Julia, tell us from a historical, let's put a historical context on this. Because as I said, it may feel like there's more volume because of social media and digital. But in the past, over those years, especially the exodus to France and to Europe, what was making Black people leave home?
Okay, I just missed a little bit of the. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we hear. And what I was
Okay.
saying is what drove the exodus of the 20th century in terms of expats? Because it wasn't just France, it was also Germany. I mean, throughout Europe, people left.
Well, if you go back to the 1920s, there was that it was first of all one of the big motivations was the World War I, because African Americans came and fought in World War I, and those who were able to get onto the field or into battle, they won so many medals, and they just proved themselves. And they proved themselves in a way that nobody expected them to, but they knew they could do it. And so when the word got back home, that they were uh, decorated soldiers in Europe and treated with respect. People went, oh, well, let's go see what's going on over there. But there was also the fact that there was prohibition as well in the United States that brought a lot of people wanted to leave. But there was also the fact that many of the soldiers here that fought in World War I, they brought jazz with them, and the they introduced jazz to Europe, and the Europeans loved it. They absolutely loved it. And it was something they never had. It's something they couldn't play themselves. So the only people who could actually perform that music that the French were so in love with, and other Europeans, was the African Americans. And so African Americans could find jobs easily, and there was none of this coming in through the back door kind of thing. It was, you came into the front door, you were celebrated, you were a star when you walked down the street. And so the African Americans found a quality of life that would never have dreamed of the United States. And it wasn't just musicians; it was artists as well. Artists we talked about several women that came here. Lois Mailou, no, she came a little bit later. Elizabeth Prophet, Augusta Savage. They were able to paint with complete freedom, but to explore what they wanted to learn about themselves and evolve as artists, learning with the French style. So the intellectuals came, and it was the same thing. They could side by side with other intellectuals of all backgrounds, from the Caribbean, from Africa, but also French and European sit side by side in the Sorbonne. So it was a place, it was absolute freedom. So it was that sense of freedom And we think of Paris as a place of refuge, and it's always been a place of refuge, not just for African Americans, but for Russians, for um, Spanish, for Portuguese, all kinds of nationalities have come through and left their mark on France, and African Americans are one of them. So if and the bottom line is, if a nationality does well in France, it looks good on France, doesn't it? So the
Yeah.
African Americans came, bringing
Yes.
their talent,
Yes.
brought their talent with them, and they realized their potential there. And what more could you want? And the fact that France opened the door for to African Americans when the United States was closing the door tight as tight on African Americans. So the France could have something up on the Americans. They could say, we treat your people better than you treat them, and they are a glory to us. They are a revelation to us. And so there's that kind of rivalry between United States and United States and France. So there's many reasons, but most of it was the freedom to explore and to become and to realize potential and to rub elbows and be influenced by people from all different backgrounds.
Yes. So we're going to have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
Ooh.
Now, I'm going to present 4 dynamic Black women in history who have been pathfinders and whose shoulders many people stand on. One of them was not an expat. Now, there's a giveaway here. And for our audience, I want you to put the name in the chat box, list it, send it to us, okay? Number 1, and we're going to do a little bit of number 1, we have Josephine Baker. Now, we already gave that one away. We know she's an expert. Number 2, Maya Angelou.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Alice Walker. And number 4, Nina Simone. I'll give you a minute to think about it, folks. And also for Julia and Charlotte, I want you to think about it too. Okay?
Which one you saying? Which one was not an
Was not
expatriate?
an expat.
Okay.
Okay. Julia, can I ask you to mute because the airport sounds are pretty loud. Audience.
You want me to mute?
Yes, if you can mute, and we're going to ask people put in the chat box, if you can, Maya Angelou, Alice Walker, Nina Simone, and Josephine, well, not the chat box, just in your Facebook, just Facebook Live us, right?
Yeah.
Just send us a message. Who of these 4 women that you see on this screen, which one was not? You're all in the show. You can audience, you can give us some love. Someone said Maya Angelou. Any more guesses?
You want us to guess now?
No, you may know. Okay. I'm asking the audience.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna give it away.
Okay.
All right. Who do you? I'll let each of you guess. Charlotte and Julia. Who do you think?
I think it was Alice Walker, because I think I know Josephine and Nina were abroad, and I know that I think Maya was abroad.
And you do a process of elimination.
Process of elimination.
All right. Julia, who do you say?
I say Alice Walker.
Yes, and I saw Audrey Edwards, our friend who's featured in our podcast, Runaway, American Runaway. She also said Alice Walker. You are correct.
Yes.
Maya spent some time, and it was not a long time. And of course, Alice Walker did attend school, and in Uganda, and she spent time in Kenya, but not as an expat. Nina Simone eventually became so disenchanted with the United States, with the politics, with the racism. She lived abroad in the 70s, and then finally, she spent a lot of time in Liberia, Barbados, and ultimately in Europe. And she decided to never come back as a full-time resident of the United States. So that's a little bit of trivia, history, etc. So back to our guests, back to Charlotte. I think you've already offered the upsides of your resettlement.
And
Tell us,
mhm.
what are the downsides?
Well, just real quick to piggyback off of what Julia was saying, and the reception that Black people got in France, you know, that is just a phenomena that I have encountered here in Panama. It's like I have been asked to sit at the table with people who owned hospitals. I am able to get into groups and tables and conversations that was just not happening in the United States. And I think it's because there's racism and isms everywhere. But here, I think in other countries, it's more classism and economics that drive people's opinion about you before more than the color. So that's been really nice for me. The downside, like I was saying, is really an upside. It's Spanish. Spanish is very intimidating to me. When you're moving to
Have you
a new,
learned? Have you learned?
I, it's a process, okay, Gwen.
Thank you.
I'm learning.
Everyone can't
Um,
be like our friend, our multilingual friend,
oh,
Julia Brown, of course.
but
But
I intend to be. I claim it. I really do. And now that I'm here permanently, it is happening a little faster for me. But yeah, so that's the challenging part. Being in a place where the culture is different, the laws are different. The vibe is great, but it's different. And then sometimes you don't know what's going on. That's the downside about moving to a place like this that speaks another language. The upside for that is I'm 58 and learning a new language. You know
excellent.
what I'm saying? That's the upside because I
Excellent.
want my mind, it's good for my mind at this point. And if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be learning. I mean, I've been living with a bilingual person for the last 30 years and I still don't know Spanish. So if it wasn't a necessity, I wouldn't be learning now. And that's a hint and a clue that I want to give to other people too. If you're thinking about moving to another country that speaks another language, start early. Start
Yeah.
early.
Well, and it's a unique American trait. Americans, more than any other country, are unolingual.
Mhm.
Tend to
Yep.
not, and part of it is perpetuated by the world because people like speaking English and they like perfecting their English by talking to you. Is that not true, Julia? And we don't try to perfect other languages by speaking in those languages. What do you say about that? I know we're talking about expats. Julia, what's your view on that?
I sort of missed the end of it, what you just said, but I could chime in here. Listen, I've been trying to learn French since I was in grade school, and it's been a long process, and I'm still learning it, and I still forget some stuff. So it's not anything. It's not. I don't take it for granted, not at all. But let's just say that two languages is enough for me. That's how I can bend my. That's all I can bend myself to. That's all. But the thing about learning another language is you change yourself. The tone of your voice changes when you speak another language, right? The way you express yourself, you want to say something in your language, but that you have to find how does that culture express that? Are the words reversed? Like, how do I start thinking about this? Is the adjective first? Is the noun first? So it really is really mental gymnastics, which is wonderful for you. But then it gives you an insight into people too, and into the culture. So it's really quite fascinating when you learn another language. Mhm.
And speaking of culture, and Black American women, culturally, I don't know if there's anyone else like us on this earth for the most part. And I find that culturally, there does have to be some acculturation when you go to other countries, interestingly. And often because, and it's not just women, but Americans in general have a certain style. We tend to be more outspoken, more, verbal about whatever it is we like or don't like. And I found traveling around, especially in African countries, sometimes you will be frozen out and you don't realize it because their style is not as upfront and as, do you find that in other countries? No, you don't find that.
I
Charlotte.
find that absolutely. I find that everywhere, and I find that what it is that you have to. I would advise people, if you're planning to go to a country, watch a couple of movies from that country. Like Netflix, you can watch like movies from everywhere, and to really focus on how people relate to one another. How do they express their desires and their discomfort? How do they express things? How do they express their emotions? And that will give you a clue as how you need to approach, certain subjects, and whether you can be upfront or whether you need to go around the back, kind of thing. And that it would be really helpful, because a lot of misunderstandings come from not understanding cultural cues.
Yes, I think
Well,
that's true. What do you say to
for
that?
me, for me, like you said, do you not know? And I think that's me. A lot of times, I don't know. I notice different body language, and sometimes I notice different things, but I'm always checking myself because I just feel like, as an African American, that we are very sensitive to some things. And sometimes when people are treating us or seem to be treating us a certain way, sometimes we default to, she just acting like that because I'm Black. So I spend a lot of time, really, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out, is it because I'm Black, or is it because, like you said, it's a cultural thing, or is it just because they express themselves different? Is it just because they're maybe insecure because they can hear that I'm speaking English and they don't know how to speak English? And so I'm always trying to process so much. They're not like rude. I've only had a couple be like rude where it was undoubtedly okay, something going on. But I try not to be too aggressive, because I think that's a word that people use to describe us a lot, is aggressive. And when you look at how other people interact, I can get it. I get that. I know why people say that. I've had people, like our tour guide, he said to me, listen, I take Black people to Panama to show them Panama, and I introduce them to other Black expats who are here. And the Black expats, they meet with the group and they tell us what it's like to live there. And we have candid conversations about living Black in America, what it's like living Black here. We want to know, and we have candid conversations. And there are sometimes white people in the room. And our tour guide, he said, oh my gosh, he said, when y'all start talking about white people, I don't know what to do. It's just so unusual for him to see people have that kind of open conversation in front of people, and I said, well, this is our time. And that's what we do. This is our truth. These people are in the room with us. We're not in the room with them. They're in the room with us. So, the cultural thing is real.
That's interesting. And to kind of shift from the cultural to what you two do. And I hadn't thought about it when we booked this show, that both of you are kind of tour leaders in many ways. I want you, Julia, to tell us a little bit about Walk the Spirit Tours, what they do, and I want both of you to tell our audience how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in booking the tours or learning more. So you first, Julia, and then you, Charlotte.
Okay, so the question was, how can people contact me? Is that was the
Tell
question?
us a little bit about Walk the Spirit, what it is, what they do, what you do, and how
Okay.
people, if they want to get more information, where do they go?
Okay. Walking the Spirit Tours is a company that helps people to immerse into Black heritage and Black history where they go, so that they feel that they can touch that part of their, whether even if you're not Black, but you can touch that part of heritage wherever you go. And it's specifically, our main focus is Paris and around France, but we have partners in Britain, in Portugal, in Spain, and elsewhere. So, and I focus a lot on Europe, and even though I live in North America, because our history, like the name of the podcast, it's been erased there, and it's so prevalent. It's so prevalent. So I want people to come. But what the point of the company is for people to come and say, that's part of my heritage. That's part of my heritage. I have roots here. And then you start a conversation with a culture that you didn't think you had a conversation with. So I want to open that conversation. So people, when they come on our tours, we have tours by different themes. You know, they can be around the 1920s and 30s, the entertainers, as we just referred to Bricktop before, and Josephine, but also writers, artists, intellectuals. And then we work with people who do tours in Little Africa. And we love taking our students and taking people through Little Africa, and then we end in a new place that's just opened called Little African Village. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting to me because now the diaspora in Paris is really coming together. We can do tourism together, which is really, really wonderful. So now when people come, it's not just about African American culture, it's about Caribbean, and it's about African as well. So we're all together here on this.
And how do people get in touch with you? Give us a URL. It's getting really noisy. We'll come back to that. Probably need to get your information and we'll put it up. Actually, we'll ask April to put it up on the screen. Your Walk the Spirit tours. I think it's walkingthespirit.com. Walking the Spirit.
It's walkthespirit.com. Just walk the spirit.
Walkthespirit.com. Thank you.
Exactly.
Charlotte, we can go to you. You tell us a little bit about your tours, what you do, and how people can get in touch.
Okay. You can get in touch with me at blackexpatsinpanama.net. And Black Expats, just Google us anywhere. We're Black Expats on Instagram, on Facebook. And what we do is we make those connections. So in other words, when you come to Panama on one of our cultural relocation tours, it's a soft landing place for you. So in addition to you meeting the professionals that help you make good decisions about a transition, you get to meet other people, you get to connect to the culture. The thing that I love most about what we do is, we see new developments, we see condos and areas to live. We have, a country club, lunches, we support Afro-Panamanians, restaurants and other vendors. But the thing that I love most about it is that we also go to a museum, and it's the West Indian Museum. And it's also referred to as SAMAP, which is acronym SAMAAP. It's the Society of Amigos for Afro-Antillians. And it's a small church built back in like the early 1900s when the West Indians were here building that canal for us, right? And they made this church into what looks like a house, like what a house might have looked like for somebody, for one of the West Indians, the people that lived here. And it's the artifacts that the people have put together. I love that part of it. I love that part of it because a lot of people have not traditionally connected Panama with Black. So it's awesome when you come and you meet these people and you see the connection. Some historical, parallels, how America brought the racist system of silver and gold here to Panama. It was black and white, in the United States. And we get to learn the real history. So we're not walking around Panama ignorant. Okay. And that is what I like about that. So, and then it is the largest monument to Black history in the country of Panama. So we support that every single month. And the other thing that's so amazing about that is the fact that a lot of people come and they don't even realize that their background is Caribbean, or like their people are from Jamaica, until they see the things in this little old church. And they was like, my grandmom had this. I mean, it happens every time where people realize that they're culturally connected.
Right.
So that's the magic part. The magic part is being in a different area, getting all the information that you need to make an informed decision about if this is a place for you. How do you get residency? We give you access to realtors and everything like that. But then also knowing that you already have a family when you get here. It's about the community part.
Well, you know what? The topic for our podcast and for this show is called the Expat Experience, No Place Like Home. And I think that is a play on words, but it's also very connected to exactly what you're seeing. I saw Audrey shaking her head because of her Caribbean roots. Despite the fact that she was born in the UK, she comes from parents from St. Kitts. And so those roots are very deep. I want to ask you both, just give me 3 things that if someone is thinking, maybe in the back of their mind, I might consider picking up and leaving the country. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating one way or the other, but if someone is, what are the 3 things you would advise that they need to do before they even get a ticket? So I'll start with you, Julia, and then hit Charlotte with that. 3 things. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I wish I thought this out before, but well, the first thing I would do is if you haven't chose your destination, then look for a culture that you think you can have affinity for, and you won't really know till you go there. So you want to maybe do a little test drive, but also make sure you've got enough money to survive. Make sure that you read the immigration regulations, well, because that paperwork can be really, really daunting. And you can maybe come, for example, in the case of France, you can come for 3 months to check it out. But if you want to come back and actually stay, they don't fool around here. So you really have to look at the paperwork, make sure you've got a resources, absolutely, definitely enough resource. And do you really, how well do you think you can live away from your family, away from your friends, away from everything that's familiar? You're going to be like in territory that's really unfamiliar. You're going to have to be in Panama, it sounds amazing that you have an amazing community like that, but it might not be the same in other places. Are you ready to be going at your own, especially if it's another language?
You gave us 5 things.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's fine. And the 6th thing was watching movies of the places you want to go. I really think that's wonderful.
Or podcast or something. Yeah.
No, don't apologize for giving us information. We want it.
We got a bonus. Well, the first thing, if you're thinking about, and this seems, this is going to seem funny, but the first things, if you haven't thinking about moving to another country or just leaving the country for anything in the back of your mind, you need a passport. Okay, I'm just saying, and I mean, and you say that, but for real, I mean, you need a passport, and that is the number 1 thing, and it has to be said. If you're thinking about Blacksadine, everybody in your house need a passport. The people that you love need a passport. Nobody is leaving the country. Ain't nobody going nowhere without one. So definitely need a passport. If you're thinking about it, passport first. Second thing is your finances. Figuring out from good, reliable sources what it actually takes to live in a place that you think you want to live at. Okay. And then making sure that you're financially able to do so. So if that means saving, for for so long, meaning that you're going to have to prolong your plan. If you're selling your house, hey, you're in good shape, because then that you're able to get set up a lot more easier because you have all that disposable income. But definitely the whole financial piece, and then go and visit, like Julia said, and go when you go and visit, don't go to places with just a vacation mindset. Go to places with exploratory mindset and what would it look like, really living here. So make that adjustment in your trip. Make sure that you have at least one good day dedicated to real fact finding, and find people that you trust that you can follow and learn about these places. Ask plenty of questions and do lots of research and hire professionals.
Excellent. And both of you gave us a lot. I appreciate that. But listen, I did a little bit of research. Do you know what the number one place is that the expat community is just proliferating like crazy?
Mexico.
The number one country, Mexico.
Mexico.
Absolutely. Playa del Carmen and the coast is one place. Mexico City is another. We have one of our guests on our podcast, which I urge you all to listen to, is in San Miguel, and she sold her house. And that's what made her move there. She had brought a house. Actually, Cynthia had brought a house. 10 days after she settled on the house in New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina hit. And so there you go. People are raving about Mexico City. I just heard someone say that. Mexico is a hot spot for American expats, probably because of the proximity, but also climate. The cost of living is very, very livable, and there's a welcoming space there. Guess what? Spain has a large community. And Portugal, which I didn't know. And of course, Ghana. Those are some of Costa Rica as well. Costa Rica is trending very much so.
Colombia is creeping up too.
And Colombia is creeping up. So now I want to just thank Charlotte and Julia for joining us. Didn't I tell you Julia was going to go fast? Julia's been on a flight to Paris, so she's got some time in the airport. I want you to please subscribe to our podcast, listen to this podcast, because you'll hear these two wonderful voices, but also others. I saw Audrey Edwards, who kind of plugged in. She's in the podcast, and a number of other people. And guess what? In June, we've got 2 more podcasts coming. One is on cannabis and Black women entrepreneurs in the cannabis industry. Is there a place for us? And then the second show is the Big Beach Read. And that is dedicated to our ongoing project called She Wrote the Book. So I want to thank everyone. Oh, I'm on time. I want to thank April, who is just April McKellar, who just had a little baby, by the way.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, April,
for all your good cheer, your time, your expertise. Really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go. I want to just do a little promo. Stay there for a minute. Watch our promo of our podcast. April and Antoinette call it our commercial. But also watch our closing theme song, Unerased, produced and voiced by Carolyn Malachi, who's also our podcast host. Thanks for sharing, Jerome Reed. Love you, bro. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining. Watch our little video endings, and we will see you again soon. Okay.
Black women are fully present in all meaningful aspects of our daily lives. Yet too often we are left out of the conversation when mainstream media seeks to tell our stories. That is why we decided to launch Unerased, Black Women Speak, a podcast series dedicated to elevating our voices and celebrating our accomplishments. Subscribe today to Unerased Black Women Speak, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and online at unerased.bws.com.
It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race.
In my shoes, listen to my blues. I stand before you, resilient, stronger than power, soft as a flower. I know the hour, I am the times.
It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race.
Appreciation, I need to know you know who I am and what I've achieved. On my journey, you could learn from me. Where there's a ruse, I speak the truth. I'm looking at you with respect and appreciation. I want for you the very best in all situations. When we get together, I feel so alive. No lie. Oh, we don't put up with neglect. Yeah, we are done risking our necks. We deserve all the love that we desire. That's by design. It is the strength for me.
It's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength